Pay me the money your father owes me.
Please give me little time, I will pay you.
The rain that night was merciless. Atlanta's streets shimmered like glass under the streetlights, and the air pulsed with danger. Inside a rundown diner at the edge of town, Julie Park wiped down the counter for the 5th time, pretending she wasn't shaking. The closed sign hung crooked on the door, but she knew it didn't matter. When the mafia came for you, doors, locks, and prayers were useless. Her father's debt had been her nightmare for 2 years. A loan taken in desperation, $500,000 from Min Jun, the Korean mafia boss who ran the city's most feared loan company. They called him the Wolf of Atlanta, beautiful, dangerous, and utterly without mercy. And tonight, the wolf was coming himself. Julie tried to steady her hands as she stacked coffee cups. The diner was empty except for the flickering neon light that painted her face in red. Then the low hum of an engine cut through the rain. A sleek black car slid into view, followed by 2 others. Doors opened. Men in black suits stepped out, scanning the surroundings with calm precision. And then he appeared, Min Jun. Even the storm seemed to pause. He walked through the rain without an umbrella, his dark trench coat dripping, his sharp eyes fixed on the diner door. When he entered, the bell above it chimed softly, a delicate sound that somehow made her heart race faster. Julie froze behind the counter as the men fanned out silently behind him. He slowly took off his gloves, his voice calm and cold. Julie Park. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She nodded. Your father owed me $500,000, he said, his Korean accent faint, smooth like silk but dangerous like a blade. He's dead now, which means the debt is yours. Her knees weakened. I've been paying, she whispered. I send what I can every month. Min Jun tilted his head, studying her. You've sent $4,000 in 2 years. He leaned on the counter. At that rate, you'll clear the debt in 50 years. Do you expect me to wait that long? Julie swallowed hard. Please, I can barely feed myself. My father got sick, his hospital bills took everything. I swear I didn't mean to. He raised his hand, silencing her. His tone was calm, but it made her blood run cold. Do you think I care about your story, Mississippi Park? He turned to one of his men. Burn it, everything she owns. She'll remember what happens when people waste my time. No, she screamed, running around the counter. Please, I'll work for it. I'll do anything. Just don't destroy what's left of me. For the first time, he hesitated. Julie's eyes, frightened yet fierce, met his. She wasn't begging like the others. She was standing in front of him, trembling, drenched in fear, but refusing to break. Something strange flickered in his chest, a feeling he hadn't known in years. You'll do anything? He asked quietly. She nodded. Then you belong to me until your debt is paid. Silence fell. The rain outside grew louder, drumming against the glass like fate itself. Julie's voice shook. What does that mean? He slipped his gloves back on and turned to leave. It means you start working tomorrow. My men will come for you at dawn. Don't run, Julie. He paused at the door, his eyes cutting through the dim light. You won't survive if you do. Door closes. The cars pull away. The rain continues. Julie sank to her knees, the weight of her father's choices crashing down on her. But what she didn't know was that the man who just claimed her life, he was about to lose his heart. The night after Min Jun's visit, Julie didn't sleep. Every tick of the clock felt like a heartbeat too loud. By dawn, she'd already made up her mind. She wouldn't go to him. She stuffed her few belongings into a torn backpack, grabbed her father's old photograph, and slipped out of her tiny apartment before the sun rose. The city was still half asleep as she boarded a Greyhound bus headed south. She didn't have a plan, just the desperate belief that if she ran far enough, maybe the wolf wouldn't find her. But wolves always find what they hunt. Later that night, the bus hissed to a stop at a quiet gas station miles from Atlanta. Julie stepped off, clutching her bag. The rain had started again. Soft, cold, endless. She ducked into a small motel, praying for one night of peace. But peace doesn't exist when you owe the mafia. Outside, 2 black SUVs pulled into the parking lot. Men in dark coats stepped out, their footsteps slow, deliberate. Inside her room, Julie froze as a shadow passed her window. Before she could move, the door burst open. 2 of Minjun's men filled the doorway. "Julie Park?" one of them said flatly. Her heart raced. "Please, just give me more time." They didn't answer. One grabbed her arm. Another took her bag. She struggled, tears spilling down her face. "I can't go with you. Please, I'll die if I go back." "You should have thought about that before running," the taller one muttered. "Boss hates being disobeyed." Hours later, she was dragged through the gates of Minjun's mansion. A towering fortress of glass and steel perched on a hill. Lightning illuminated the massive iron gates as they swung shut behind her. Inside, everything gleamed. Cold, beautiful, heartless. And there he was, Minjun, standing at the top of the marble staircase, dressed in a dark suit, his face unreadable. The moment his eyes met hers, the room seemed to shrink. "You ran." His voice was calm, but beneath that calm was thunder. Julie tried to speak, her voice trembling. "I was scared. I didn't know what you'd do to me." He descended the stairs slowly, every step echoing like a countdown. "You think fear gives you permission to disobey me? I'm not your property," she snapped, surprising even herself. He stopped right in front of her, his gaze sharp enough to cut glass. "When you took my money, you became my responsibility." "My father took it," she whispered, voice cracking. "He's dead. Why punish me?" Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, buried too deep for anyone else to notice. "Because debts don't die with the dead." He turned to his men. "Get her cleaned up. She'll work here until her debt is repaid." Julie's voice broke. "I can't live like this." He glanced back at her once more, his expression cold but his tone softer than before. "You'll learn, or you won't." That night, in a room too big for her tears, Julie realized she had entered a cage. One gilded with wealth, guarded by fear, and ruled by a man who didn't believe in mercy. But what she didn't see coming was how the monster who trapped her would slowly begin to set her free. The first morning in Minjun's mansion felt unreal. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, reflecting off polished marble floors and chandeliers worth more than her entire life. But to Julie, the mansion felt like a cage made of diamonds. She woke up in a small room tucked at the far end of the east wing. Beautiful, yes, but guarded. She could hear footsteps outside her door every hour. His men never spoke to her. When she looked through the window, she could see the garden. But beyond the walls, freedom seemed impossible. Later that morning, a woman in a black uniform entered. "Mr. Minjun said you'll assist in the kitchen and clean the study," she said sharply. "If you need anything, ask. If you anger him, pray." Julie nodded quietly. She didn't trust her voice. For days, she worked in silence, washing, cleaning, trying not to cross his path. But he noticed her anyway. Minjun sat behind his massive oak desk, going through files when the door creaked open. Julie stepped in, carrying a tray of tea. She set it down carefully, eyes lowered. "You don't have to fear me," he said suddenly, his voice echoing across the room. She froze. "Shouldn't I?" He looked up, her honesty caught him off guard. "People usually beg or flatter me. You question me. Because you don't scare me the way you think," she whispered. "You just confuse me." His brows lifted slightly. "Confuse you?" Julie hesitated, then said, "You destroy people without blinking, yet you let me live. Why?" For a moment, the wolf was silent. Then he stood and walked toward her, his steps unhurried. "Because when I looked at you that night, I saw something I hadn't seen in years." "What?" she asked, voice barely audible. He stopped close enough for her to feel his breath. Fear mixed with fire. "I wanted to see which would win." Julie's heartbeat thundered in her chest. She stepped back quickly, clutching the tray. "You're playing with people's lives." "It's the only game I know," he murmured. She turned to leave, but his next words stopped her cold. "Run again and I won't bring you back. I'll bury your name instead." Her breath caught. She didn't answer, just walked out, her hands trembling. But behind her, Minjun sat back down, exhaling slowly. For the first time, he wasn't sure if the threat was meant for her or for himself. That night, she wandered into the garden, desperate for air. The moon hung low, painting silver light across the roses. "You should be sleeping." His voice startled her. He was standing by the fountain, his coat open, tie undone. Not the ruthless king everyone feared, but a man haunted by something unseen. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered. "Guilt. Fear," she admitted. He looked at her, his eyes softening for a heartbeat. "You're not a prisoner here, Julie." She laughed bitterly. "Then why do your men stand by my door?" He didn't reply. Instead, he looked away toward the moonlight. "Because I don't trust myself when people disappear from my life." That answer silenced her. For the first time, she saw not the monster, but the man. And in that fragile moment of quiet, a dangerous bond began to form. One neither of them could afford, but neither could resist. Julie went to bed that night more confused than ever. She hated him. She feared him. But a part of her, a reckless, beating part, wanted to understand him. And Minjun, for the first time in years, I dreamed of something other than blood and money. He dreamed of her voice. Atlanta was restless that night. Lightning tearing the sky apart, the streets pulsing with sirens and whispers. And in the mansion on the hill, Minjun sat alone in his study, staring at a photograph from a lifetime ago. A young boy, a woman with kind eyes, and beside them, a man whose face was crossed out with a single red slash. He closed his eyes, but the memory came anyway. Gunfire. Blood. His mother's scream. The day he learned that mercy was a weakness, and love was a weapon. Julie moved quietly through the hallways that night, carrying a tray of files one of the guards had handed her. She was still learning the rhythm of this strange house, its cold walls, its watchful eyes. As she turned the corner, she nearly collided with Minjun. The files tumbled to the floor. "I'm sorry," she gasped, bending to pick them up. He crouched too, their hands brushing for the briefest second. Electricity, and something deeper, sparked between them. She looked up, their eyes locking. "You're always apologizing," he said quietly. "Stop doing that. You make me nervous," she confessed before she could stop herself. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Good. You should be." But his voice lacked its usual edge. It sounded tired. Later that night, Julie found him alone in the garden. Rain pouring down again, his shirt soaked, his hair slick against his forehead. He was staring into the distance like he was searching for something the world had stolen. "You'll catch a cold," she said softly. He didn't look at her. "A cold is nothing compared to what I've already caught." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He finally turned, eyes dark, haunted. "Feelings, Julie. They're worse than bullets." She didn't know what to say. She stepped closer carefully. "Why are you always fighting yourself?" "Because peace gets people killed in my world," he murmured. Something in his voice broke her. For a moment, she saw not the mafia boss, but the broken man beneath the armor. Without thinking, she whispered, "Then maybe you've been fighting the wrong enemy." He looked at her sharply. For a heartbeat, silence filled the air between them. The rain slowed, the night held its breath, and then a gunshot shattered it all. The sound came from the front gate. Shouts, screams, gunfire. One of Minjun's men ran into the garden, blood on his sleeve. "Boss, it's Kang's men. They're here. They found the girl." Minjun's eyes widened. Julie inside. "Now!" Before she could move, another shot rang out, the bullet slicing through the fountain behind her. She screamed, falling to the ground. Minjun was beside her in seconds, shielding her body with his. His voice was sharp, deadly calm. "Get her to the panic room. Move!" Two men grabbed her, pulling her inside. Minjun turned, his face transforming. No longer human, but pure, calculated rage. For every bullet that flew, he returned 10 for every scream. He answered with silence. By the time it was over, the rain had washed away the blood, except for the crimson streak on his shirt where Julie's hand had clutched him before they dragged her away. Julie sat trembling in the corner, her hands shaking. The door creaked open, and Min-jun stepped in. Soaked, bleeding, eyes wild. She ran to him instinctively. "You're hurt." He grabbed her shoulders, his breath ragged. "Don't you ever run toward danger again? Do you understand?" Tears filled her eyes. "You could have been killed. I've been dead for years," he said hoarsely, "until you started breathing life back into me." The words broke something inside her. For a second, they just stared at each other. Two souls trapped in a world built on fear. Then, without warning, he pulled her into his arms. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just a desperate, trembling embrace. The kind that spoke louder than love itself. "I don't know what you've done to me," he whispered against her hair. "But I'd burn this whole city if anyone ever touches you again." That night, Julie realized the truth. The man everyone feared wasn't unfeeling, he was broken, and somehow, her heart had found the cracks. But love in Min-jun's world wasn't safety, was fire. And she was already burning. The mansion had never felt so quiet. For 7 long days, Julie had moved through its echoing halls alone. Her footsteps the only sound that broke the silence. Min-jun had traveled out of Atlanta on business. A rare trip he couldn't avoid. The bodyguards were everywhere. The staff still worked. Yet somehow the mansion felt empty. She missed him. She didn't say it out loud, not even to herself. But every time she passed his study or their room, her heart reminded her. Julie had been living there for only a few weeks, and already it felt like a world she belonged in. The guards were polite but distant, the maids silent and careful. Every step she took echoed down the marble halls, reminding her that this wasn't home. It was his world. She hadn't seen him since the day he traveled. At first, she told herself she was relieved, that she preferred it this way. But as the days dragged on, the silence became heavier, lonelier. She caught herself glancing at the stairs whenever the main doors opened, half expecting to see him stride in with that calm, unreadable expression. But he never did. And at night, lying in her room surrounded by shadows, she sometimes whispered into the dark, "Why does it feel so strange without you here?" On the 7th evening, the mansion suddenly came alive. Engines roared at the gate. Voices filled the hallways. Julie peeked out from her room just as Min-jun walked in, tall and commanding. His presence instantly claiming the space. He was dressed in black, his hair slightly tousled from travel, his eyes as sharp as ever. Their gazes met for a brief second. Her heart skipped. "You're back," she said softly. He paused on the stairs, his lips curving slightly. "Did you miss me, Julie?" Her cheeks warmed. "You were gone a long time. That doesn't answer my question." She looked away, pretending to focus on the floor. "Maybe a little." He smiled faintly, just enough to make her heart flutter. "Then I'll try not to leave for so long next time." Later that evening, as she was reading quietly in her room, a knock sounded on the door. A guard stood there. "Miss Julie, Mr. Min-jun requests your presence for dinner." Her eyebrows shot up. "Dinner? With him?" "Yes, ma'am." She hesitated for a moment, then dressed quickly in a simple blue gown and followed the guard downstairs. The dining room was warm with candlelight. Min-jun sat at the head of the table, looking more relaxed than she had ever seen him. "You didn't have to come if you were tired," he said as she approached. "I'm not," she replied softly. "It's just unexpected." He gestured for her to sit. "I thought you might enjoy some company. You've been quiet since I left." "You noticed?" she asked, surprised. He gave a slight smirk. "I notice everything that happens in my house." Julie blushed slightly but tried to stay composed. They began to eat. Min-jun spoke about his trip, about the business meetings, the people who tried to deceive him, and the deals he turned down. He didn't brag. He spoke with quiet confidence, a man who knew power and didn't need to prove it. Julie listened, captivated. He was dangerous, yes, but there was something deeply disciplined about him, something admirable. "You sound like you've lived 100 lives," she said quietly. He chuckled lowly. "Maybe I have, but you remind me that I still have something worth living for." Her breath caught. For a second, the world stilled. Just the two of them, a flicker of warmth between two souls from different worlds. The mansion settled into silence hours later. Julie couldn't sleep. She lay awake, thinking of the way he looked across the table, the way his voice softened when he spoke to her. Then suddenly, a crash. Her heart jumped. Another sound, this time gunfire. She sat up instantly. What was that? The hallway outside erupted with shouts. Guards ran past her door. Before she could move, the door burst open. Minjun stood there, gun in hand, his face hard and focused. "Julie, stay behind me," he ordered. "What's happening?" she cried. "An attack. Don't move." The air was filled with gunshots. Two masked men stormed down the hall. Minjun reacted instantly, firing, hitting one square in the chest, then diving for cover as the other fired back. Julie screamed as bullets shattered the wall beside her. "Stay down," he shouted. He fought with ruthless precision, every movement sharp, controlled. He was protecting her, defending what was his. But there were too many. One managed to slip behind him, gun raised, aiming for her. "Minjun!" Julie screamed. He turned, too fast, too desperate. Just as the gun went off, the sound ripped through the hall. Minjun staggered, his weapon falling from his hand as he clutched his side. Julie ran to him, her eyes wide with horror. "No, no, no, no!" He collapsed against the wall, still trying to shield her. "Stay behind me," he breathed, his voice weak. "Forget that. You're hurt," she cried, pressing her hand against the wound. Guards rushed in, finishing the fight, but Julie barely saw them. Her world had narrowed to one man, the one who had just risked his life to save hers. "Why did you do that?" she whispered through tears. Minjun forced a faint, pained smile. "Because, Julie, you're the only thing I won't let them take." Episode 1 ends here. Thank you for watching. Your support means the world to me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next exciting episode. More amazing stories are on the way.